open your hearts, open your spirits to what you're going to hear today. Grab on to at least one idea, because if we don't start spreading the ideas, who's going to?
My parents gave me the greatest wedding gift, the gift of rejection, which, by the way, was not on the registry. I double-checked. I remember standing at the altar on my wedding day. There in the front row, there were 2 empty seats, one for my mom and one for my dad. They chose not to come because they didn't agree with the man that I chose to marry. And I know what some of you are already thinking, like, what's wrong with this guy, right? He's right there. There's something wrong with him. So he's not a serial killer. He's not a drug dealer. He's not a criminal. And it's not even a race thing, like I'm Asian and he's not, clearly. It's that at the time, he was 18 years older than I am. I mean, well, he's still 18 years older than I am now. He's divorced, and he has 3 kids. And I know for some of you in the audience, that's not a big deal, but for my parents, it was huge. And even standing here as I say this, I know it sounds crazy, but I truly believe that rejection is a gift. And today, my outcome for you is not only for you to hear my story, which you might think is entertaining and very dramatic, but it's also for you to take action to address the conflicts in your life, because that's the opportunity for growth. I didn't always see conflict as a gift. In fact, most of my life I spent running away from conflict because I am a little bit of a people pleaser, and I really wanted to be liked. And it started with my parents. I knew who I needed to be and what I needed to do to be that perfect daughter for them. And it was the good grades, mostly good grades. And I'm really, really grateful for that, because I think it got me very far in life when I followed their rules. I graduated from Wharton, worked in investment banking, and I actually made a lot of money. But I wasn't happy. And I was really confused because I thought that going to a great school and then making a lot of money afterwards would at least point me to the direction of happiness. And so in my misery and little quarter-life crisis, I found personal development. And through that journey, I got very specific on what is the kind of life that I wanted to build. And then more specifically, who is the type of man that I wanted to build it with. 4 months later, I found him. I still remember the night I told my parents about this guy that I'm dating. Now, there are different versions of what actually happened that night. But since my parents are not here and I'm the one on stage, you get to hear the truth. I knew my parents didn't approve of this guy, so I was very strategic. I took them to a public restaurant so they wouldn't make a scene. And then over dessert, I just blurted out, I have to tell you something, which is like the best intro ever, right? I'm dating John. They already knew who he is. My strategy worked because there was not a single word. Dead silence. And then on the car ride home, I'll never forget this moment where out of nowhere, my dad just started sobbing uncontrollably. My dad's my hero. I had never seen him cry in my entire life. And then the next day, he told me that I was disowned. And that was the day I lost my family. For 3 years after that, I was the black sheep of the family. Nobody could text me. They couldn't call me. My dad was like the CIA. He'd monitor the phone lines. He read all the texts. He even installed cameras inside the house in case I came to visit, he would know. And everyone knew not to communicate with me, otherwise there would be consequences. And at one point, it got so bad that he threatened that if I ever came near the family, that he would just kill everybody, including my unborn children. So I gave up. And then fast forward to just November of last year. My aunt from China came. She was a maniac on a mission to cure this thing, to heal the family. And that's how I found myself driving to the Bay Area once again to see my dad for the first time in years. And I remember going down there, my brother, he's 16 at the time, he's blowing up my phone. Daddy's furious, he found out you're coming, he's been pacing around all morning, and he's got a gun. And deep in my heart, I wanted to believe that my daddy would never hurt me. But in the fear of it, I just wasn't sure. And I was so afraid that day. I thought something really bad might happen. But I knew that love is the answer. So somehow I managed to get my butt in front of my parents' house, and I stepped out, and I saw him. And the moment he saw me, I could feel his rage. And every step that I took, his voice got louder. The only thing that was keeping me in my heart was this Hawaiian healing mantra that I learned at a Tony Robbins event. It goes something like this: I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. So I thought, what the heck, I didn't know what else to do. I'm gonna say it out loud to him. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And at one point, I got so close to him. He's right in front of me. I just reached out and hugged him. He resisted at first. But then there's a magical moment where he just relaxed just a little bit. He stopped fighting me, and then he started crying. And in that moment, I could feel just a little bit of the pain and the resentment and the anger and the fear that he had been holding back for so long. That day, the wall that had been built up for nearly 3 years started to crumble, just a little bit. That day, I was allowed to see my family. I got my family back. And more importantly, I learned that love works. So at this point, some of you might be thinking, it's done, it's over, they're healed, and they lived happily ever after. And to the contrary, I think it was only the beginning of my healing process. I know I've got my work cut out for me, and I am determined I'm never gonna give up on my family. Now, maybe some of you have experienced that level of rejection, and if you haven't, I hope you'll never have to. But all of us have faced rejection at some point, and all of us have the opportunity to learn. So I'd like to share with you 3 lessons that I've learned from being rejected by my parents. The first lesson is that the person we resist the most is often our greatest teacher. And I can feel the tension in the room right now, because who's that person for you? You know, sometimes it is a parent figure because that's the person that we crave love from the most, or a spouse or someone that resembles that. For me, it was my dad, obviously. So I believe that triggers tell us where to look. And in his rejection, I was thinking to myself, why am I so triggered by this person? And it forced me to ask the hard questions, like, what am I not willing to see? What truth am I rejecting in me? Because if something can trigger me that bad, that means I probably have some truth in that. I probably agree with it in some way. And the lesson that I needed to learn was that I needed to learn how to find certainty within me without any external validation, just in me. I needed to learn to be strong, to be a confident, free, and powerful woman on my own right. And funny how this happens, because as I was preparing for this 2 days ago, I got a phone call from one of my students, a girl who is reconnecting with her dad. They hadn't spoken in years. And after an hour of just talking it through with her, she's meeting her dad for coffee. And so it really can be a blessing when we're going to take action and confront that fear that rejection is highlighting for us. 2 is just love them as they are. You know, I used to ask myself this question: why can't my parents just accept me for who I am? Why can't they just let me live my life? Why do I have to live by their rules because this is my life? That question brought me so much pain. Highly would not recommend. And then I realized that the pain and suffering actually came from my unmet expectations. I was expecting my parents to be open and accepting. They were not, so I caused my own pain and suffering. And then the absurdity of this just hit me, is here I am asking my parents to be loving and open, accepting, and I wasn't accepting of their beliefs and their rules. So that was my first aha, is if I wanted them to love me as I am, I had to first love them as they are without expecting them to change anything. And that meant surrendering to the possibility that they might never change their minds and being okay with it. Maybe there's someone in your life that you want to change for their own good, of course. Maybe they don't have your work ethic. Maybe they don't see the world as you do, different values and beliefs. And you want them to change for their own good, but it hasn't been working. And maybe today might be a great time to try something new. Because when I stopped expecting my parents to react or behave in a different way, I just had no expectations for them, it actually freed me to just love them as they are, no matter what they did or say. And then interestingly enough, they shifted. You know, syntax matters here, of course. And I'm not saying it's gonna be easy, but do it when it's hard. You know, love even if we're afraid. Love even when anger comes up, which is anger is really just fear. Do it when it's hard. Find a way, because love is really worth it. And love is the answer, and more importantly, love works. And then my third lesson is we might be very, very loved, but we might not feel loved. I learned that people love in all sorts of crazy different ways. Not all of it is sunshine and rainbows. So don't judge how they do it. And if you don't like how they love, and this is a relationship that matters to you, don't give up on them. I've never thought about it until I started sharing this story. That moment where my dad cried. I think it's really a testament to how much he actually loved me and cared about me. You know, some people show love through criticism because they're willing to have the hard conversation, to tell us the hard thing, even if it means risking the relationship. Other people will show love through distance, even if it really, really hurts them to be away from us. So I'm curious, what are your rules for love? Like, do you need them to say it? Do you need them to do something or behave in a certain way or not do something? How do you know you're loved? And it's not to change anything. It's just in those moments where we might feel alone or lonely, just remember that we might be loved more than we can ever realize, but in that moment, we might not feel loved because it's not the love that we expect. So as we wrap this up, I'd like you to consider this. Maybe rejection doesn't define us, but it refines us in the way we think. Perhaps the outcome of rejection is really personal development. When we're able to look at what this rejection is spotlighting for us, what is this fear that we're supposed to see, and grow from it. And sometimes it's not this huge dramatic thing. Sometimes it's this little thing, the passing comment, something passive-aggressive, maybe a conversation you know you need to have, but it's not important or urgent, so we can shove it away. And in many ways, I think my situation, however dramatic it is, actually made it easier for me to address it, because it was so big that I could not confront it, which is why I really say rejection is this biggest gift that my parents gave me, because it forced me to confront this fear that I otherwise wouldn't have addressed. And not only did I improve my relationship with my parents, but it spilled over to every other area of my life. I got better at work, sales calls are not really bad anymore. And then this rippling effect I have in my career and with other people too. So it's not just that relationship, it's so much more. So this is the part where it's now your turn. Who is a person that you might have resisted in the past? Maybe they've rejected you, or we've rejected them, which I think is even more important because often the thing that we resist in someone else is often the part of ourselves that we don't like. And it just keeps showing up in that person, and then there's more instances that it shows up until we learn how to resolve that. So that's why this is so important. As you think of that person, what emotions come up? Is it fear, anger, sadness? Now, if there was a higher purpose for why this person is in your life and they're behaving the way they do without changing anything, what is the lesson that we're meant to learn because of that? And then finally, when we learn that lesson, what's available to us now? Not just for that relationship, but for everything else in your life. Now would be a great time to make a decision, to commit to action. Maybe it's to give them a call, have the difficult conversation, tell them just how much you love them. Maybe it's to write a letter, or maybe it's just to make a decision in our heart to forgive them and send them love anyways. Because I believe when we can forgive others, we might just free ourselves. And then from that point, then we can create the happily ever after we've always dreamt of. Thank you.